covering the High Plains with news, weather, and information. From TV 23 Studios in Sublette, this is High Plains Today.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this special edition of High Plains Today. I'm joined in studio today by my good friend, John Dahl. He is currently State Representative, District 123 here in the state of Kansas, but he's going to switch hats. He wants to get his number lower. He's running for the Senate District 39. He is now a candidate again. Good to see you today.
It's a lot of fun. You get to go out and meet a lot of people, and
Yeah.
you know, I enjoy parades and just talking to people, and it gives me an excuse to, and they have to kind of talk back to me. So it's kind of fun.
What, there aren't that many of us that'll talk back to you?
There's a lot of people that just see me and kind of turn the other way. But
I find that hard to believe. Okay, so why did you decide to give up your seat in the House and pursue the state Senate?
people ask me why I wanted to be a state senator, and I told them I didn't. I didn't want to be. I honestly tried to call and did call Steve Morse a number of times. He was an unbelievably good senator for us out here in western Kansas. He represented western Kansas. There's a couple legislators I talked to, former legislators, about running, and no one would run. So we need a change. So much that, you know, the election in 2012 may have been the most important state election that we had in my lifetime. I think this election of 16 will be the second most important. And we didn't get it right in 12. We need to get it right in 16.
So you are going to be running against the incumbent, who is Senator Larry Powell, and he is also from Garden City, correct?
Well, he grew up in Cal Vesta. He has
Okay.
a house there. He just last year bought a $1.5 million home in Missouri with land. So I'm not sure where he's from.
Okay. Now, how long has he been senator from the
4 years.
39th? 4
This
years?
is his fourth year.
Okay. And so you decided, because now you're feeling that change needs to be made with Senator Powell.
Exactly.
And he's the current incumbent. He's a Republican as well as you are. So on August 2nd, that primary will be decided between the two of you.
Yes. Larry represents special interests real well. He said in a forum one time that he has one constituent, and that's Sam Brownback. You know, when you make those kind of statements and such, you know, someone needs to run. He needs to be accountable for the people of Southwest Kansas. And right now, you know, he's very good with special interest groups in Topeka, but, you know, he showed up to about half the forums in those 4 years. He has stated publicly in those forums that, you know, you have to make friends in Topeka, you make deals with people in Topeka. You know, he wants to play all these games, and, you know, I think what you do is you talk to the people back home, you know, like the school finance thing that we just had a special session on. I was on email and texting with 4 superintendents in our district. I'm sure that Larry didn't contact any of them.
Okay, so you're looking for change.
I'm looking for new direction.
New direction, okay.
And the direction is, because what we're doing now fiscally is just, we're an embarrassment. Because we just had to borrow $900 million. We gave the governor $100 million for discretionary funds. You know, that's $1 billion. And the trend is still going down. It's not like we hit a bump in the road. You know, with the radical changes that we made with the 2012 tax plan, it's obviously not working. You know, and to defend the governor somewhat, you know, gas and oil went into the tank, ag went into the tank, airline went into the tank. But, you know, when you have things happen in life, you make adjustments. And we have not made, we're just going to keep digging the same hole no matter how deep it gets. And we have to stop that hole. We have to turn the direction around. And it's not going to be something that's going to take a year or two. It's going to take some time to repair the damage that we have done the last 4 years.
So how do we, okay, let's talk about that. How do we repair that damage? I mean, because it seems like it's okay for the governor and the legislature, oh, we'll just go borrow that money. We'll just go get that $900 million. oh, we'll just get this 100 million from over here and give it to you over here. Meanwhile, this suffers. How do we fix all that?
Well, first of all, you know, we had a three-legged stool tax system forever. And we take one leg out, you know, income tax. And last year, what people will say is we brought in 140 million more dollars than we did before. Well, of course we did, because we had a record tax increase, you know, with sales tax. We did the thing with tobacco. But prior to 2012, the year of 2012, before the tax plan came into effect, we took in $2 billion less last year than we did in 2012. So that tells me, one, probably when we brought in $2 billion more, we're taxing too much. There needs to be adjustments made. And yes, we were we were on the third page of the newspapers. We weren't on the front page. We weren't on the Colbert Report. We weren't on, any of those TV shows like we are today. We didn't have to have a giant garage sale on sex toys like we had, because that to bring.
I remember that. Yeah,
that was. It's embarrassment.
That was good fodder for the talk shows, was it not?
It was not. It was just embarrassment. Wow. So what we have to do, we have to readjust it and then make incremental steps on bringing our taxes down, but to the point where we're always safe. And with the radical change we had, we just threw this away and put it in the garbage, and we're paying for it, and we'll continue to pay for it until we have a change.
Okay, I want to talk a little more about that. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to go back onto how we can still fix this economic mess in the state of Kansas. Stick around. I'll be back with more with John right after this.
You're watching High Plains Today on TV 23 with host Chris Jewell. TV 23's internet service and 4G live streaming provided by United Wireless. Coverage you deserve. Service you expect. United Wireless.
And welcome back. I'm joined by John Dahl. He is a Senate candidate, District 39, state of Kansas. And we were talking before we went to the break about how we can fix the economic mess that has been created over the last 6-7 years here in the state of Kansas. And, you're talking about we have to make some increases here and there. But, I think people need to understand that when you talk about that, we're talking about baby steps. I mean, it's not going to be, we're not going to try and make $2 billion all up in 1 year.
Right.
So how are we going to go about
Well, first
that?
of all, you talk to most people who have LLCs and sub-S's, they feel that they should be paying taxes. I mean, a fair tax system is what we have. Right now, we don't have a fair tax system. And so we need to bring back the tax on the LLCs and sub-S's, maybe not as high as they were prior to 12, but enough to give us money that we don't have to raid the Children's Initiative Fund or highways and that sort of thing, and start rebuilding the three-legged stool in property, income, and sales tax. And perhaps what could happen if we have that, we can lower all three legs at the same time, so it continues to be a fair tax system. Right now, our tax system is not fair. There's 330,000 people that benefit from this. The rest of us are harmed by it because we put more responsibility on local government to do things that cost money. So they have to increase property tax. Everyone's property tax has gone up. Some of it has to do with gas and oil valuations, but a lot of it has to do with legislation that we passed in Topeka.
Well, and the other thing with the LLCs, when this first started out, that group was not going to, it was nowhere near 330,000. And then it just went, oh, tax break, boom.
Well, we tout that we have all these new business when in reality, a lot of them just shifted from whatever they were to an LLC. And if you were a businessman and you didn't do that, that's foolish.
Well, and then the other thing was that, all this was, was going to create all this new revenue and jobs that were going to come to Kansas. Granted, everybody shifted over to become an LLC, but the jobs really didn't follow, did they?
Didn't quite work how we thought it was going to work. So And there again, we had gas and oil depletion fund and things like that. But generally speaking, no, the people who take advantage of the tax break have not hired more people. They have not expanded their business. They got more money in their own pocket, and I don't blame them.
Well, and it's come to the point, and I've always said that you guys up there for years have been, the revenue estimates, were short, 14 of the 16 in a row there. And it was like you guys were looking for money in the couch cushions, but there's no more money in the couch cushions. I mean, you're having to go to mom's purse or dad's wallet and just steal it right away from them now, right?
We're making serious cuts on essential services, and it's sad because government needs to be very limited in what they do, but they do have responsibilities. They, what's going on in the world, protection of the people, and we're 109 highway patrolmen short, and the reason we are is they haven't gotten a raise in like 7 years. We push more things down to local level on their law enforcement. Highways, we expect and we deserve good highways. Now we're cutting into those kind of things, those essential services that all Kansas deserve.
Well, you were telling me we're scheduled or we're slated to have road construction and resurfacing and renewal projects on 1,200 miles of highway a year?
Yes.
And now it's down to
200.
200.
Yes.
And then we wonder why the roads are so rough, and we wonder why out here in southwest Kansas that, roads are not what they need to be, and we keep harping about that.
Well, and the roads, are pretty good comparable to Oklahoma or Nebraska. But what's going to happen, they're not going to be. If you don't keep maintenance up, it's just like anything else. If you don't keep maintenance, it's going to deteriorate, and we don't have the money to fix it. It's a lot cheaper to maintain something than to have to rebuild something. And we're to the point where we have taken so much money away. When these roads are bad enough, we're going to have to rebuild them than maintain them.
Well, yeah, and they've taken so much money that we can't even build what we've already set out and started building. I mean, down in Liberal, for instance, they took 8 miles away from a 10-mile project, because we had to have the money somewhere else.
Yeah, like between Cimarron and Dodge was going to be 4 lane.
Yes.
That's been delayed forever. It is what it is. And what it is we have a revenue problem, whether you want to call it spending or whatever. We need more money. We need to provide essential services. There again, I say prior to 2012, maybe we could have lowered all the taxes. We have the second highest food tax in the country. That's embarrassing.
That's unheard of, isn't it?
That's for Kansas, where all the food's produced.
I know. Hold that thought, because you talk about, state spending and revenues and that kind of stuff. Stay right there, because I want to come back with something that your opponent said right after this break. I'll be back with more with John right after this. Welcome back. John Dahl, Senate candidate, District 39, state of Kansas. All right, when we left before the break, we were talking about state revenues. And I want to come back with something that your opponent said. He said 2 things in the last forum that you guys had. Kansas is doing fine. And the other one was the state has a spending problem, not a revenue problem. And that sounds like it comes direct out of the governor's office, because that's what leadership in the governor's office has been saying for the last couple of years.
Well, what's interesting about that is when they asked him this forum where he'd make these cuts, he says, I don't know. He said, as soon as the budget was passed, I forgot about it. He's on Ways and Means. He's on the tax committee. And he said he doesn't remember anything about the budget. So he doesn't know where these cuts should come from. And so it's easy to say we need to make these cuts, but we should have an idea. If he's on these top committees, he should be involved in the discussion of where these cuts are going to be. But, that's partly the reason why I'm running. He does what leadership tells him to do and doesn't reflect back to what some of the wishes that we have out here are.
So, and as an outsider looking in, and it doesn't matter which district it is, but as the state of Kansas as a whole, where there's nowhere left to cut, is there?
I haven't seen any place. We've cut too much already. Essential services. It's to say that we have a spending problem. We can probably go in and find a nickel or dime here and there, whatever. I have a neighbor that's worked for the Children's Family, it used to be the SRS. She was let go after working there 14 years. The last week they just come in, 2 people from Topeka, and said, we're eliminating your position. And you hear that over and over again. In Department of Revenue, they've, let go a lot of people. And you want to run a business as tight as you can run a business, but you have to have people. You can't just cut and take away these services. If you're going to cut them, get rid of them if you're not going to man them and run them right. Then if they're not that important, then you probably need to eliminate them. But we're making cuts in programs that are very essential for the well-being of the state of Kansas.
So out here generally, are you hearing from people, when they say, oh, no, Kansas is doing fine? Do the people in Southwest Kansas think we're doing fine?
Well, of course there's some. My opponent thinks that, and there's 4 or 5 people that stand around him that think that, but I have had to knock myself personally, not just my team, just me personally, over 1,000 doors. I have yet to have the first person say, we have too much money.
Nobody said, oh yeah, you could raise the taxes.
Yeah, well, they didn't say that we need to cut taxes more. It's interesting. You talk to most business owners, and we touched on this earlier. Most of them feel that they need to be paying their fair share of tax. They don't want to pay a dime more, but they feel like they use the roads too. They do these things.
Okay, so you talk about these LLCs, and I've heard, and a lot of polls and things show that, not just in Southwest Kansas, but all across the state. Yeah. I think the majority of those 330,000 LLCs would say, yes, I would be willing to put some money into taxes. Now, how much money would that roll back into the state revenue coffers?
Well, I don't have the exact number. All I know is prior to this tax plan, we brought in $2 billion more than we did last year when we brought in $140 million. So that's per year. So the exact number, I don't know.
Well, and I know that the revenues brought in by the state this year were more than last year, but all the estimates were still, missed by a bunch.
Since we've started estimates, there was very, very seldom that we missed estimates. And when we did, just slightly, we're missing estimates by $30 million, $50 million. It's not even close because they don't know how to calculate this because there's such a bizarre tax system that we have that they can't figure out.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, we got about 30 seconds left, and I'm going to let you have it. You can look at that camera over there. You can look at me. I don't care. But all right, give me your last big spiel about why people should vote for you for State Senate District 39.
Well, if you like the direction that we're going, keep voting the way we're voting because the direction will hand. It'll be bankruptcy. It'll be deteriorated hospitals. Will it be school closings or consolidation? It will be things that Kansas that we don't know about. We're going to look like a bad neighborhood. If you want to see change or what you want to see the Kansas that we used to have, then we have to make changes in the Senate. And I want people to take a look at their own heart and what's important to them. And if money, tax money, and they are an LLC, and that's it, they don't care about anything else, highways or anything, then they probably need to vote for my opponent. But if they care about education, highways, hospitals, because those hospitals go away, they'll never come back.
That's true.
Then they need to vote for me.
I appreciate you, John.
Thank you.
And just so everybody knows, we have reached out to the incumbent, Senator Larry Powell. We've emailed him, we've left messages, and he has yet to respond. So he does have equal time on this forum if he would like to show up, and we'll go through the same process with him. But I do appreciate John Dahl coming in today. Good luck, and I always want you to come by and see us anyway, because I like talking to you.
Yeah, you're fun.
And that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Keep up to date with the latest information from TV 23 on our Facebook page, KDGL TV.